The Just podcast is brought to you by ReCity Network. ReCity is the Triangle's hub for social impact. If you're interested in learning more about ReCity, start by booking a tour at recitynetwork.org. ReCityNetwork.org is also where you can go to subscribe to their monthly newsletter or make a donation to support ReCity's work. The website again is recitynetwork.org.
From the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, in conjunction with ReCity and Coastal Credit Union, you're listening to Just, stories about the people working to build thriving communities rooted in justice. I'm Jess Averhart, co-founder of Black Wall Street Homecoming.
And I'm Rob Shields, executive director of the ReCity Network.
All right, look, so here's why we're here. We're here to get proximate. We're here to listen. We're here to process. And we're here to help you process.
But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to be preachy because we don't have all the answers, and we will never make you feel like an outsider.
Keeping with the theme of sharing, we always want to acknowledge the whole person, and that starts with our personal check-in.
Let's do it.
All right, Rob, we're at that time. We're at that time. I love this part.
How are we doing? We're here. We're alive.
We are that.
We made it to another day.
Yeah.
Oh, I think winter in general, what I'm telling people is the person who invented daylight savings did not have toddlers. Because goodness gracious, whoever thought it was a good idea for it to get pitch black at 5 p.m.
That's actually a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
That's 3 hours I've got to kill before I put 4 toddlers to bed.
That's right. It's
3
messing
hours.
them up. Is it like the circadian rhythm?
Kids don't get more tired as the day goes. I get more tired. So we're at this inverse graph, right? I didn't do good in geometry. So I'm not sure where it is, but I'm going down. They're going up to bedtime. And so I'm literally drinking a Red Bull on the way home some days.
Oh my gosh, at like 5 or 6 o'clock? I need to peak at like
4:30.
Dude, we need the spring to get here for you and your household.
Now, if my kids listen to this, 10, 20 years from now, I love them. I love them. I love you.
Yes.
You've done great.
But you are taxing us at this
right
point.
now, you are wearing me out. You are wearing me out, and I need caffeine to get there.
I get that. I get it. Listen.
How are your holidays?
Well, listen, holidays were great. It's always the time where I feel like this sort of intersectionality of people's like actual crazy and their mystical like Norman Rockwell life.
Right.
hits
painting comes alive.
Yeah, it all comes alive, and we're all so happy, and I love it, and I buy into it every single year. So I did again this year, and I also learned about a little bit more about this, the number one app that's out there right now called TikTok. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well,
tell me more.
Well, my son is 17, and so he is avid on TikTok. And so my mother, so for all of you out there, just imagine this. My mom is 5'4", and she's a little white-haired white woman. 5'4", white-haired white
Tracking
woman.
with you. Yep.
And she has on like a hoodie and sweatpants, and she's like all the things. And she comes over, and my son is like on trying to do this dance move, and my mom goes, "Oh, are you on TikTok?" My mom, she's 69 years old. And I didn't really know about it. And Trey goes, "Yeah, this is TikTok." And she's like, "Show me."
Surprising bonding
She goes,
moment.
"Show me." Yes. And so they learned this dance. And Trey did it. It was probably like 8 seconds long. And this thing is viral. It's almost 700,000 views. This video, yeah, in the last, not even a week. It hasn't even been a week. So 6 days, 700,000 views. And my son gained 10,000 new, followers.
Wow.
Right? So, I mean, it's
your
been...
mom need to capitalize
My mom
on this?
has created her 15 minutes of fame. No, my mom is like really feeling herself. She's into it. She's telling my son that they need to do more of them and create a series. It's great. So
she's got a little taste now.
It is. Yeah, she wants more of it, which is pretty great. So anyways, that's my check-in. Social media is a constant surprise.
I feel like you've set a really high bar for my future holidays. It's not meaningful unless I produce a video where there's almost 1 million hits on it.
Oh yeah, nothing short of that. Yeah, I'm quite sure he'll hit 1 million in the next week or so. It's like really
I need to watch it. I guess
I'll send it to you. Okay. I don't know why I didn't send it to you. I'll send it to you. This. Yeah.
Apparently, I need to catch up with the rest of the world. I'm not cool, so I'm always playing catch up on what is.
You can do this instead of your Red Bull. Just watch my 69-year-old mother.
That sounds like a really safe combination, right? Drinking Red Bull on the way home, watching a video, right, while driving.
Yeah, that's it. No danger.
Yeah,
no danger involved.
Of course. So
let's talk about justice.
Yes.
So this podcast is called Just. I mean, that's powerful. It's just as I was saying before we went live, I was like, just. It was like, yep, just. Yeah. So let's talk about justice. You want to define that for us? What does that mean to you?
I think that is really a really important place to start of what the phrase justice even means. Because again, back to this polarization, we all have different definitions for things. And then we see the world based on those definitions. And sometimes those definitions can be incomplete, or we're misunderstanding concepts, right? And so I think to boil justice down, I don't have a PhD. And a lot of this is borrowed from my own reading and my own experience.
You are one of the most well-read people I know on this subject.
I just want to make that disclaimer, just to avoid the future lawsuits of people saying, hey, no, you know what? This is not mine. I did not come up with this. Yes. Anything that is gold from me is borrowed. A working definition for justice is to give people their due. To give people their due. So there's two sides of that. One side is the side that I think we go to sooner when we hear the word justice, is like the negative, which means when someone does something wrong, they need to be stopped. So criminal justice. I think a lot of people track with, when they hear the word justice, they think of the criminal justice system, which is more of the punitive side. Yeah,
it's justice. Fascinating because that is not my first inclination.
It's not yours.
It is not. It is not negative. It is fascinating. But go ahead.
We'll have to throw up a Twitter poll maybe at some point and be like, hey, what is your
initial reaction
to justice?
Yeah.
Is it the punitive, is the negative, or is it the positive? Because there is another half of justice, and I think we tend to fall off the horse one way or the other in thinking about the negative first or the positive. And the positive, which is the one where I think we're going to camp out and spend more of our time. We probably will go back and forth, but the positive side of justice is to lift up and care for those who have been marginalized. Because the reality is justice is both retributive and restorative.
Yeah, love it.
It's both individual and it's social. So justice is a complex term. And I think that what we're going to try to spend our time doing in the interviews that we host and the conversations we have is let's flush out and talk about what this looks like to be lived out. Like who are people who are lifting up and caring for people who have been marginalized in our communities, right?
Yeah.
How do who is living out this idea of justice that restores? Which is what I'm really excited to do, because we both know those people. They're doing amazing work.
Yeah.
And we got to really celebrate that work, because otherwise we're just left in this negative cycle of let's criticize what's not working and let's just point fingers all the time. And that's never progress. Nothing ever moves forward because that's not a solution. That's just criticizing. And it has to be this both and. We need to talk about the problem for sure.
Right.
But we can't be paralyzed and stay there. And so I think this idea of really shining a light on people who are trying to pursue this restorative justice in their own lives will help us all move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about justice, it is so complex, right? But it's simply for me boils down to fairness and equity. Just this space of fairness. So I don't always think of it as negative, although I recognize that most people will go there.
Right.
For me, it's this place, this like holy place that is neutral and is allowed for all voices and everyone to be heard in that space. And out of that is an equitable outcome, a fair outcome, a place that there is real balance instead of, like you said, this 400-year systemic tree that has skewed that opportunity
where
to
everyone
sit
has
in
not been given their due.
Entitlement. And let's use that word in a way that doesn't feel white privilege, but like we all are entitled to justice. We're all entitled throughout our life to have the opportunity to be in a space that is fair and equitable.
Right.
I'm entitled to that. Everyone is entitled to that.
As a human being, right?
That's right. We're humans.
You have inherent worth.
Yes. Now we all understand all of the inputs and the variables that push on that. But at the very basic for me, that's justice. And so as we think about, as you talk about these marginalized communities, that cup is not full for them. And that's what we want to focus on, is bringing a light to it. And our community, I think we can all appreciate that. I, as a Black woman, have a whole lot of privilege in the space that I walk in every day. But at the same time, and at times, my cup is also not full. So,
you can experience what it feels like to be marginalized.
Oh, absolutely. Well. Absolutely. And I'm raising a son who is 6'5" and at any given time can be mistaken for a 26-year-old black man that is threatening, right? Mm. But he's a 17-year-old boy, you know, and he's my son and he's precious to me, but he's not seen as that to others. And I'm aware of that, chronically aware of that.
You hear me talk about Bryan Stevenson a lot. It's someone that I see as a mentor from afar, right?
Yeah.
I don't know him personally, would love the privilege of getting to know him, but follow his work with the Equal Justice Initiative. You know, the movie Just Mercy's coming out here real soon in theaters. Read the book. It's incredible. But the one quote from that book that really has stood out to me that I think is a good summary of this, he fleshes out this term justice. He says in the book, the true measure of our commitment to justice cannot be measured by how we treat the rich, the powerful, the privileged, and the respected among us. The true measure of our character is how we treat the poor, the disfavored, the accused, the incarcerated, and the condemned.
Amen.
I mean, that's it. That's the measuring stick that we're going to talk about. It's like, how are we doing there?
Yep.
How are we doing as a society? How are we doing as a community there? Let's look local, even though these issues don't have to stay local. Mm-hmm. You could be listening all across the world, and there's ways that this can translate for you because injustice is everywhere.
Yeah.
Which makes we want to challenge the pursuit of justice everywhere. And so we're going to dive deep into some really meaningful and also really complicated issues here when it comes to justice. And I'm excited to do that.
We'll bring you more Just Podcast right after this. Yeah, well, you basically just answered the question I think our listeners might be curious about is like, why this podcast? Why now? You know, what's the pull for you?
I think the reason this podcast matters right now is because of what I just spoke to. People, myself included at times, I can be guilty of this. I think we all can be. We're making our minds up about how we feel about social issues in a vacuum. We're doing it really quickly in the Twitterverse, right? We're taking that tweet, and if it enrages us, we're retweeting it, we're liking it, and we're just getting stuff brought to us. The algorithm is working to just give us more of what causes more angst. So we end up, it's tribal, it's very polarizing because we just surround ourselves with people who think like us and can fuel this angst, right? Or this demonization or this othering of people, right? And that combination perpetuates injustice. That allows injustice to continue because we're not coming together to figure out how we collectively solve issues. I don't think communities can be just, and I don't think they can thrive if they're fractured. And right now, that's exactly what
powerful.
we are. We are fractured, and we talk about this all the time. You're going to laugh when I say it, but like, we need to get proximate to what we don't understand.
Yes.
We need to get proximate to what we don't understand. We need to listen. We need to learn. We need to build empathy. And then we got to use that newfound knowledge and relationships to take action. This can't just be an intellectual exercise. It has to include that, but it can't just stay there.
Yeah.
We have to, otherwise we're intellectually obese.
Yeah. No,
all we're doing is consuming knowledge and getting obese on it instead of actually working it out in our daily lives. And here's the thing. Like, I think that injustice is a tree that's been growing in our community for 400 years. And we have to dig it up by the roots. Mm-hmm. Like, when you think about close your eyes and think about what a 400-year-old tree looks like. It's huge. Mm-hmm. It's massive. Mm-hmm. Its roots go deep under the surface.
They really do. Yeah.
So what do we do about it?
It's a staple. It becomes normal.
It's been normalized. That's right. And we revolve around it.
Yep.
Versus thinking that it could actually, it doesn't have to affect us that way. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right. And that's not permanent.
But here's the thing, Jess. This is what can be really disheartening is what keeps us from any type of action is oftentimes we get stuck in debating whether the tree's even real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we know what we mean when we say that. Like, we literally can't even agree on whether the tree is real and whether injustice is really happening because it's not our own felt experience sometimes. Mm-hmm. Right. And if we don't feel it, then it must not be true.
That might be true.
Because it's not my lived experience. And there can't be a situation that's out there where someone has a different experience that makes it real to them.
Yeah, I really resonate. That's a beautiful illustration, actually. That will stay with me for a long time. I love that. what I was thinking about my own, as you were talking, what I think is going to be so important about our time together and our time with our listeners is this idea of being open to being curious and training ourselves to learn. I mean, we all say we're learners.